So it's update day, which means we've got a lot to break down over not only just today, but the rest of the weekend as well. In this one, we're running down what update 1.16 changed and what you should be aware of. As we go along, drop your thoughts below. What do you like in the look of? If you've jumped into the game after the update, what feels good, bad, whatever to you, feel free to drop it. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to stay up to date with all things Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and anything COD related. And as well, make sure to use code Espresso for 30% off of certain items on G Fuel like Starfruit and Peach Rings. Both great choices, but now let's get into the update. Firstly, we don't really have to spend a lot of time in talking about the content we've discussed here the past week or so because that's already been previewed. The big ticket items include Himmelmat Expo as a 6v6 map, the new weapon of the Tempest Torrent, Marksman Rifle, a new lethal of the Shuriken, the new game modes of Drop Zone, All or Nothing, One in the Chamber, a new raid episode, and new Path of the Ronin challenge updates with more items to earn along the way. To me, a lot of the big stuff comes in some of the global changes we'll see for Warzone, Modern Warfare 2, as well as like DMZ and Spec Ops. Firstly, we're going to start out with some weapon balancing first and foremost here. This might get a bit monotonous, but you can use the chapters section here on the video progress bar if you want to skip ahead to anything. But starting out with weapon balancing, the assault rifles, the STB was the only one that was adjusted here, where we had an added minimum damage against armor, which limits the bullets to kill at the furthest of ranges. The light machine guns had a decent bit done to it here, where the RAL MG was the biggest target, where it reduced the far damage range. It gave a small increase to the close range damage. It reduced the headshot and upper torso damage, and also increased the recoil. The RPK got a little bit of further adjustments as well, where it reduced the walking speed and muzzle velocity. The second MG38 was the only other MG adjusted, where it reduced the damage range. So still probably going to see that one as a very prevalent weapon in the meta. The marksman rifles, we saw the crossbow increase the time period to trigger double kills for challenges, so making that a bit easier. The submachine guns, we saw the MX9 increased its mid damage ranges. The BAS-P saw an increase to the sprint to fire time and increased the damage ranges. The PDSW saw a slight offset on the weapon while ADSing, using the iron sights to improve visibility. The Vel 46 saw an increase to the close damage ranges and also fixed the attributes on the 30-round magazines to improve handling and mobility. The Lockman sub saw a reduction in movement speed, reduced aim down sight speed, improved recoil control, and the LM Nebula barrel saw an improved damage range as well as recoil control. The shotguns, the KV broadside, rightfully so, ended up having a bunch of things done to it here, where it reduced the lower torso damage. The 12 gauge ammo saw a reduction in the damage ranges as well as the close range damage, and the Dragon's Breath ammo saw a reduction in the damage ranges. It reduced the close range damage, and the global reduction of the 12 gauge Dragon's Breath maximum residual damage was made as well. The Bryson 800 and 890 both saw increased headshot damages on the slug type ammo and added a minimum damage against armor. Now, a lot of the other stuff actually came down to attachments. Those were the only weapons that were fundamentally adjusted here, but we saw globally flinch was reduced for that recenter speed for flinch, and also made minor increases to the flinches on ARs, SMGs, LMGs, and shotguns. So an interesting change here, no less. The hollow point rounds saw a removed bullet velocity penalty. The frangible rounds changed the healing delay timer to set the last bullet's impact as the primary, and it removed the damage range penalty on it. Overpressured rounds removed the recoil penalty and increased the flinch imparted on players. The 12 gauge Dragon's Breath saw a reduction in the residual damage while burning, and the 12 gauge slug and HE slugs saw an added minimum damage against armor added. The underbarrel launchers removed the movement penalties for grenade launchers. It added recoil control as a bonus to the underbarrel grenade and shotgun launchers, and added one extra ammunition stock to the grenade launchers overall if you use that. Stocks, we saw a reduction in the flinch received on no stock modifications, so slightly buffing that. The bipod grips saw a reduction in the ADS penalty for the bipod V9 grip, and we saw some adjustments to the BP2 bipod grip. The underbarrel grips reduced ADS penalty on all underbarrel grips, which is definitely nice, so you now no longer have to sacrifice a bit of that speed, and it reduced the movement speed penalty for all vertical grips. The muzzle attachments, the breachers greatly reduced the ADS penalty and added hip movement speed buffs, while the flash hiders reduced the ADS penalty altogether. Optics, they reduced the ADS penalty on hollow optics. It removed the movement penalties on hollow optics. It reduced the ADS and movement penalties for all thermal, hybrid, and variable zoom optics, and reduced the ADS penalty on shotgun scopes. So you can kind of see the common thread here is a nice reduction in ADS penalties across the board for these attachments so far. The comb attachments, finally rounding out the attachments, ended up fixing some handling stats on a handful of them, so nothing too crazy. Your equipment of frag grenades, claymores, and semtexes now do more damage against armor. We saw, of course, our audio changes here that were talked about. With the UI and UX ended up having a couple of things adjusted, where update requires restart is now just going to go right into restarting the game, not going to prompt you, it seems like. And we see new menus for weapons and weapon camo challenges, as well as adding a store tab for players to buy available bundles of specific weapons. Now, there were a handful of different bug fixes globally for kill streaks, overall, equipment, field upgrades, UX and UI, that we can leave that down there in the description below if you guys want to check out the full patch notes. We'll have that scrolling on screen right now if you guys want to check. But again, just in the interest of time here, so that I'm not droning on talking about every single bug that was fixed and adjusted here, we're just going to scroll past that a little bit here. And before we get to anything really in regards to the game specific changes here, outside of the weapon tuning that is global, we did also see a new accessibility setting introduced, which is the inverted flash, which will then end up doing a black screen for flashbangs rather than a white screen. So if you're somebody that plays late at night, lights may be off, it is something you're not going to be blinded here by flashbangs anymore. So that's definitely a really nice one here as somebody that likes dark mode. And honestly, the older I get, I feel like the more sensitive I am to very sharp flashes of white like that. I definitely like this change here. So I think that's something that will be nice for those that do need it. It is an option you can put on, maybe just prefer it being a darker flash rather than a light flash. But that's something with this update that was added as well. As for Spec Ops, we saw a number of fixes across generals, the low profile and defender gameplay offerings. But as for the Adam grade episodes, we saw a handful of changes here that are actually pretty impactful to the overall rewards, how you access them, and everything like that. So let's just run these down. We saw that a weapon XP token is now unlocked with every single completion of the raid, so a permanent reward here that you end up getting. They stated they added one camo to the regular loot pool, which seems like it's a universal camo. That's something that's going to take a couple of run-throughs for everybody to see everything that you end up getting, because there is that loot rotation here as for what you can unlock for completing each raid. But that seems pretty cool. I'm all for that. Might actually incentivize playing the raid multiple times if you're a camo collector. They added a kit select to allow players to modify their kits in-game if needed. They added clarity on which rewards are unlocked and which rewards are already unlocked via list in the lobby. They removed the raid assignment, again, a big part here with this that allows for accessibility for all players. You don't have to complete a multiplayer or Warzone challenge to access it. That's something you can just simply go in and play, assuming you have a team of 3, or you can use the party finder with no barriers as well if you don't have another team of 1 or 2 players. They added a unique reward class type that is technically labeled right now as classified, so interesting and curious to see what that will be. They added Spec Ops kit boosts to the raid store bundles for episode 1 and episode 2, giving 10 stars per kit and instantly unlocking kits upon purchase. They added a vote to skip functionality in-game for cutscenes, and they fixed an issue where an extra oxygen tank icon would appear on the screen for episode 1 of the equipped player. Now, as for multiplayer, realistically, in terms of different bug fixes and all that kind of stuff, there really wasn't a whole ton. There were a few, but the big focus on multiplayer and adjustments that were made on a technical side came to the ranked play side of things, where yesterday announced it, today it is in play, that all weapon tuning is disabled in ranked play, as well as the Kastov 762 is banned. So that's something you'll definitely notice now if you used either of those, but changes made no less. We saw some quality of life improvements for visual feedback when a match is canceled because a player left within the first 30 seconds. The skill division rewards screen now displays rewards from all divisions by default, and added the top 250 profile images for a handful of CDL pros that may not have had it previously. And finally, in bug fixes for ranked play, we saw a few there, but again, nothing too crazy. They did address, though, that visual bug that suggested the player's SR had been entirely reset. Now, moving over to Warzone, we saw a bunch of things here in regards to the quality of life fixes. Firstly, kill streak availability. One nice thing here that they did is that they added a now for X seconds attached to the airspace is too crowded, so that allows you to know when you can call in that streak. The cluster strike and precision airstrikes were improved, where the airstrike danger notification is now more consistent based on each damage location. It improved directional tracing to prevent the precision airstrike from targeting from somebody landing behind the players, and players will now be notified when a cluster or precision is too close to where they are in the affected zone. The give up timer consistency now is across the board at least 3 seconds here that you have, and then navigation pings were adjusted to increase the scale of navigation pings on the TAC map and minimap for improved readability. The armor break text, definitely something that I was very excited to hear about. This one is something that has now gone away. That's something that if you played Ashika Island, it was very problematic because it would almost make you seem like you downed a player, but really you only broke their armor. So that was an unnecessary change that was added with that, I think, but now removed altogether. Auto looting of armor plates now takes priority and will pick up automatically as long as there's available inventory or backpack space. Spawn protection was disabled at 25 meters now, which was up from 19 meters, so allowing you to shoot players out of the sky a little bit further. And the Resurgence kill feed will now display who is about to redeploy when the Resurgence timer reaches 0. The UI and UX for Warzone in particular, friendly pings and splash screens are now visible to spectators, and the gas mask loot cards will now more accurately reflect the damage amounts that it's taken. With Season 2 Reloaded, we do of course have Ashika Island solos, duos, trios, and quads. Finally, definitely nice here with that. And we'll also see that Warzone 3rd anniversary where you can end up getting a handful of different rewards along the way from the shop as free items. The bomb drone has been temporarily disabled while they fine tune it. that's something that we actually did learn. It will be coming to Al Mazrah at some point, but for right now, it was only in Ashika Island, and actually right now, it's not in the game at all. The gameplay pacing was something that the team wanted to tackle, where combat engagements mid and regain opportunities late game are something that we're being focused. So we'll see a restock public event in the 4th circle guaranteed every single time here. As of Season 2 Reloaded, maybe in Season 3, that was something they were still up in the air on whenever we talked about this with some of the devs. But as for gameplay adjustments for map-specific stuff, Al Mazrah, the light helo has been disabled in solos, contract availability increased the number of contracts, and especially in later circles, and the final circles are temporarily disabling final circles in the northwestern section of the map while they work on improvements for upcoming seasons and what may actually be up there in regards to, honestly, in my thinking, just anything for any sort of cover. Ashika Island, the redeployment drones are live. AI combatant departure is something that's definitely nice. AI is going to be reeled back in. Players will now be the only threats for search and seizure contracts and data heist public events. Circle balancing saw the first circle be 20% larger, and we saw some improvements to buy station availability. As for DMZ, there were a handful of things here that are a little bit more important. One of the big ones being the way they changed the requirements for building 21. You're still going to require an access card, but you won't have to take it in your inventory going into it. So long as you have one in your inventory, it will count that as being able to access it. But the thing they did want to stress is that if you do take that in, you do have that chance of losing it for good if you die and end up losing all of your loot. So just know that the destroy supplies contract has been updated to reveal the 4 closest safes instead of revealing all of the safes, and enemy combatants now have a small chance to drop upgraded weapons upon death, among a few other smaller things here at that. Additionally, we did see some additional bug fixes for DMZ, but again, without sounding too monotonous droning on, we'll just put that on screen here. You can check that out, pause the video if you need to. But that is the update we saw for Season 2 Reloaded, and that's what we're going to call it. So let me know your thoughts down below. We'll, of course, have a second video going up later this afternoon, this evening, whenever we may get that up, as well as then a couple of videos coming over this weekend, giving you guides, tutorials, all that kind of stuff for everything you need to know coming out of Season 2 Reloaded. But for now, that's what we're going to call it. I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down below. What do you think of Season 2 Reloaded so far? You guys liking it? Whatever the case, feel free to drop your thoughts. But if you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and anything COD related. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.